Hi, guys. It's Stephanie Grams going live on YouTube as part of the 40-day challenge I had for myself. Um, so today is about going green. And as a sewing business owner, we have the opportunity to make a difference in the landfill. So I'm going to share some statistics for the US, and then I'm going to give you some ideas on how you can go green in your business. And then I'm going to tell you why it's a good idea to go green in your business. As always, please be sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, sign up for the free ebook and newsletter via stephaniegrams.com. And here we go. So, according to the Council for Textile Recycling, the average U.S. citizen throws away 70 pounds of clothing and other textiles annually. The U.S. EPA estimates that textile waste occupies nearly 5% of all landfill space. So that's one fact. Another fact is, on an average, 700,000 tons of used clothes get exported overseas, and 2.5 million tons of clothing are recycled. But over 3 million tons are incinerated, and a staggering 10 million tons get sent to landfills. And that information came from greenamerica.org. All right, so that's staggering. That's horrible when you start to think about it, right? So what are you supposed to do, right? As a sewing business owner, you might end up with outdated fabric nobody wants, or fabric scraps. We have the ability to weigh those scraps. Have you ever taken a second and just thrown all the scraps into like a lightweight container or a box? You weigh the empty, say you use a cardboard box. That's what I always use. And you weigh the empty cardboard box first, and then you write down how much that box weighs by itself, empty, and then you start adding all your fabric scraps to that. Have you ever done that? I did, and the box that I had weighed 30 pounds. That's 30 pounds of scrap fabric. Okay, that wasn't all of the scraps that I had, but that was the accumulative scraps from the memory bear orders that I had in 1 year. That's a lot, right? I mean, think about it for a minute. So, obviously, some fabric weighs more than other fabric, and I understand that. But when you think of it as a whole, if you think about your fabric, your sewing business and the fabric scraps as a whole, it can be overwhelming, can it not? I know for me, when I was looking at those fabric scraps, I thought, oh, I just cannot throw that out. I just consciously need to make an effort to be a green business. And so in 2021, I set out to find out how to become a green business. And I did. I was awarded an Ohio um, document certification. Ohio, I'm considered a green business in the state of Ohio is what I'm trying to say. I'm sorry. And I have the document and everything. And so I want to share with you why it's a good idea to go green and how to do that. So bear with me on this non-edited YouTube live video as I share with you this information. This is what I did. See if you can do it yourself. If you have other ideas, please share it in the comments below. That's one thing I like about my channel is we all try to share helpful business information. Okay. And I do screen all the comments before I allow them to be published because I get so many links for dirty things. And I'm like, nah, that's not what this channel is about. Okay. So when you take your fabric scraps, if you have a customer that does not want the scraps back, right? They just said, you dispose of them however you feel. You can either charge a small fee to do that. I never charged a fee. I just recycled that recycled everything myself. Sorry about that. I get tongue tied sometimes. But anyways, so you can offer to mail the scraps back to your customers. And obviously, I mean, you don't have to do this way, but when I would mail them back, I would actually weigh that the poundage for the customer and they would pay the exact shipping amount. All right. So they have their scraps back. Another thing is if they are really nice scraps, you can upcycle those. Now, here's a couple ideas. You can upcycle them into crazy quilts. You can push them together and coordinate them however you feel, and then sell those online at like Mercari or Etsy or maybe eBay, maybe even the Facebook Marketplace, because individuals like myself will buy certain fabric scraps for unique projects. And I've talked about this in the past where I would upcycle scraps and like random buttons and broken jewelry and things like that. And I would use those in the primitive decor that I would make and sell. So that's an option. They don't have to, everything doesn't have to end up in the landfill. Think outside the box. I talk about that a lot in my videos about thinking outside the box, how you can upcycle, recycle, and resell, right? Because in a sewing business, we do end up with a lot of fabric, whether it's leftover fabric from the memory bears that we make or the quilts that we're making, even t-shirt fabrics. So if you're working on a t-shirt quilt and the customer does not want any of the leftovers, like the sleeves or the back panels, those make wonderful rags if you need dusting rags. There's something about the cotton in a t-shirt. They're great for cleaning. I used to clean condos on Hilton Head Island. They made wonderful rags. They can be recycled also, depending on what type of recycling your community does. So look into that as well. If you have good fabric and you don't want to hold on to it for your own quilting or your own art projects, again, offer to sell those on, or don't offer, but just sell those online. If you don't want to mess with selling them online, like I'm in the process of moving. So what I did is I packaged all of this and I donated it to a secondhand store, because my hope is that they will in turn offer to sell these as either rags or to quilters who are looking for random scraps of fabric to make these crazy quilts. And crazy quilts are still popular. It's just you have to know what you're looking for, and that's a totally different, I don't know, thing to think about, right? It's not about today. So that's an idea, but we don't have to think about just fabric when it's going green. One thing I do is I do a lot of sublimation, and I use my inkjet printer. I have an HP inkjet printer. It's just a basic printer. It's not those fancy sublimation printers at all. But what I do is I buy special inkjet paper, and that way I can sublimate on the quilts and memory bears for my customers. One way I went green is because I have a subscription, and the link is under the description below this video, for monthly ink delivery. And not only do I pay a very minimum fee every month to have my ink delivered to me, I save thousands of dollars a year on ink. But I, in turn, put the used ink cartridges into the self-addressed stamped envelope that they mail me, and I recycle the empty cartridges. And so it's a wonderful cycle of recycling, but I'm saving money as I do that. Another idea is with paper. I know I go through a lot of computer printer paper for my company. I use it in the sewing aspect for the patterns because I'm a pattern designer. I sell my patterns online. I sometimes will list them on Etsy, but I sell them elsewhere online as well. And I hand draft my patterns. I don't do a digital draft yet. I might eventually, but I really enjoy the whole hand to paper pen type of pattern design. So what I do is I make sure I use both sides of that paper before it ends up in the trash. Now, before it ends up in the trash, a lot of times I will shred the paper and use it for packaging and shipping, because paper shreds are just paper shreds. It's just paper, right? So if you have a paper shredder, shred your own paper and use that in packaging. Obviously, if it has confidential information on it, you are not going to want to do that. And then I have a local recycling service. So every week I fill my recycling bin and I set it on the curb. And that also helps me as a business owner, but also my family. So those are just some ideas where you can go green. Now, why would you be interested in doing this? Well, as a business owner, it is a good thing to do. It is good for the environment to do your part the best you can by recycling whatever it is you can recycle. But there's also another reason for that. I'll just give you an example. When I earned my green certification, that gave me the opportunity to write a press release about my company. All right. You see how this works? You're doing good. You're helping with recycling the best you can with all the things that you have available to you, right? But you can turn that around as a news, a press release, a way to reach out to the news to get some publicity for your company because look what you've earned. You've earned green status. So that's just something to do for today. Today's December 13th, 2021. It is Green Day. And I hope that you learned a little bit, something to think about moving into 2022. Put it on your calendar. I talk a lot about pre planning, moving forward in your sewing business, and how you can stand out from your competition. And what I do with that is I put my marketing and publicity hat back on because I did that for it was over 13 years, so it might have been closer to like 16 years that I did that. And so that's a lot of stuff that I teach my online students when it comes to the sewing business and the growth part. So if you're interested, I have information via my newsletter. It's underneath the description box below. Please be sure to like and subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, share my channel. It's a free way to help me out, and I am glad you're here. Bye, guys.